How's it going, Gaby? Chemistry here, and in this video I want to give a quick review about the book that I read called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. Now, this is an awesome book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you read it because in this book she basically lays out what fear is, how it affects us personally, and how we can overcome it to be able to do and accomplish whatever our goals and our aspirations are. Now, it's funny because a lot of people think that, in order to do something, they have to get over a fear or they have to be so used to it that the feeling of the fear is not there, where this is not the case, right? Fear is never gonna go away. And even people that are professional that do things all the time, they still have fear. And a misconception is that people that are successful just get over that fear, and that's not necessarily the case. The only difference really between people that are successful and people that aren't not successful is that the people that are successful feel the fear, but they do it anyways. They act regardless. They act in spite of the fear. And so in this book, she basically lays out how you can do that as well. And so I'm just going to give you the 3 levels of fear that she talks about in the book, which really helped me kind of break down, and not only break down, but help me understand fear more and help me change my definition of fear. Because when you do that and look at fear a little bit differently, it's definitely life-changing, and it definitely can help you accomplish and get over whatever fear that you're trying to do. And that could be in your personal life, that could be in growing your business, whatever the case may be. And so the first level of fear is kind of the surface level, right? It's just what we tell ourselves when we're afraid to do something in the first place. Like, for example, say you're at the bar and you see a hot girl or a hot guy and you want to ask them out. The first thing that we tell ourselves if we don't, actually approach the person is like, our mind starts coming up with excuses, like, oh, they look like they're busy. They look like they don't want to talk to anybody. There's so many people around them, or, my outfit's not the best today. I don't have my cologne or my perfume on, whatever the case may be. And you give yourself that reason, that excuse, that's the quote unquote fear that a lot of people kind of stop at right there. And that's just the first level of fear. Now, if you take it down to the second level of fear, a level deeper, you really have to ask yourself, what is it that I'm really afraid of? And what usually happens most of the case, or most of the time, is that you're really afraid of the emotional response, the emotional state that not be doing that thing is going to actually cause, right? Like the fear of rejection or the fear of failure, those kind of things that, if we end up not getting the result that we want to get when we approach the situation, that feeling that will result, or that consequence that will result because of that, is what we're actually afraid of. Like if you work, at a job and you are afraid to ask your boss for a raise, right? Or as simple as you're afraid to ask for some time off, because I know how hard that can be sometimes, asking your boss for some time off, and you deserve it too. You have like 2 weeks built up, but yes, for some reason you're just afraid to ask them, right? Because why are we afraid to ask them? It's because we're afraid that they'll say no, and that's gonna make us feel like crappy, right? It's not a good feeling. And so that's really what we're afraid of. We're afraid of putting ourselves into that situation. But in the book, Susan actually goes one level deeper, and this is actually really important, because she says that the actual core of the fear comes from you are basically telling yourself that you can't handle whatever outcome is going to arise because of that situation. That's it. That's really what you're telling yourself. You're telling yourself that you're not going to be able to handle that rejection. You're not going to be able to handle that failure. You're not going to be able to handle that no. And once we understand that, it kind of makes it a lot easier to overcome fear, because all you have to tell yourself, or all you have to really do, is ask yourself and really consider, all right, if the worst possible case scenario happened for whatever situation that you're in, would I be able to handle it? Would I be okay? And more often than not, or I like to say most of the time, the answer is yes. Like, you will be okay. And that's something that she also talks about in the book, that, tell yourself that I'm going to be okay, or I'll be all right. I'll figure it out, right? It's your ability to figure it out that will actually help you overcome that fear, overcome the core of that fear, because it's just that feeling of not being able to handle that situation that causes us to fear that emotional state, that causes us to clutter our head with excuses, to cause us to not do it in the first place. But if we ask ourselves, despite what happens, whether I get what I want or not, can I handle it? And the answer should be yes, because you can handle anything. You can handle anything because you have the potential, you have the mind to be able to figure out whatever the situation may be, and tell yourself that I can figure it out, right? So that's something that really is so important when understanding fear, is those 3 levels. So if you understand that basic rudimental level of fear, you can then realize and see in whatever situations that you're in how this could affect you. Now, there are a couple truths with fear, and that is everybody feels it. Everybody feels fear, so you're not the only one in the boat. And not only you, but like professionals, anybody that's in any situation, no matter how many times they do it, no matter how many times LeBron steps on the court, or no matter how many times, someone gives a public speak, it could be a famous public speaker, they have butterflies in their stomach. They feel the fear. The only difference between them is that, and anybody else, is that they act in spite of the fear, right? And so that's something that you just have to be able to do, like not let that fear stop you, because that fear is just what we perceive in ourselves, and we create that wall for ourselves. We create that door for ourselves. And the second truth about fear is that fear equals growth. So if you want to grow, if you want to make more money in your business, or if you want to be able to achieve something, if you want to be able to have a fruitful relationship, whatever the case may be, you're going to have to not only encounter fear, but you're going to have to overtake fear. You're going to have to control fear and do it regardless, right? Because fear is kind of like a signal, meaning like, this is where I'm uncomfortable, this is the unknown, and that is exactly where you want to be. You want to be right there, because that's where you're going to step out of your comfort zone. That's where you're going to be able to grow. That's where you're going to be able to expand yourself. That's where you're going to be able to step into your greatness, is by actually overcoming that fear, right? Like if you're in a hallway and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, the light being whatever you want it to be, and you're walking down the tunnel, and then smack dab in the middle of the tunnel is a door. And that door is fear. And you have 2 options. You can either say, I didn't really want it bad enough, and you walk the other way, or you can open the door and walk right through it, right? Sometimes you might fumble the keys, sometimes you might, it might be hard the door might be stuck a little bit, but if you work it, you can go through that door, you will ultimately get what you want on the other side. And that's exactly what fear is. It's literally just something that we have to walk through. It's going to be there regardless, but if we understand that, then we're able to actually overcome it. So, in light of that, how do you overcome fear? Right? And basically just like Nike says it, just do it, right? Just do it. Fear is going to be there regardless. So if you're afraid of doing something, if you're thinking about doing something and you're letting fear kind of stop you, 1, realize that you're not the only person. Everybody else in the world, if you're a human being, feels the exact same way. And 2, no matter what happens at the end of the situation, you can handle it. And if you realize those 2 truths, then all you have to do is act in spite of that fear being there, and you will be able to accomplish great things. You will be able to inspire other people to do the same, and you will be able to accomplish whatever goal that it is that you're setting out to accomplish. So do it anyways. Act in fear, or don't act in fear, but feel the fear and do it anyways. So with that being said, I'm Gabe Kemizi. I hope this video was valuable for you. I hope you got some insight. I hope it was helpful. If you like this video, please leave a comment down below. Also share it and let other people know, other people that might be going through the same thing, because we're all feel the same way. We all feel the same thing. But if we can overcome fear, then we can overcome any obstacle that is thrown our way, and we can achieve our greatness. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my page, and I'll talk to you guys later.